Let's see how present perfect 1 works.
We use the present perfect 1 to connect the past and the present, expressing or showing the relevancy of a past action or situation in the present. Look at this sentence. Dan has gone home. Dan has gone home in the past. This leaves us to believe that Dan is likely at home in the present. This sentence gives in the present past information about Dan. Dan has gone home. Did you notice that we used has, the auxiliary verb to have, with the past participle of to go, gone? So how do we make the present perfect 1? We make the present perfect 1 with have, has, the auxiliary verb to have, and the past participle of the verb we use to convey action.
Let's practice the present perfect 1 forms of the verb to wash.
Present perfect 1 forms. Affirmative singular. I have washed. You have washed. He has washed. She has washed. It has washed. Affirmative plural. We have washed. You have washed. They have washed. Negative singular. I haven't washed. Have not. You haven't washed. He hasn't washed. She hasn't washed. It hasn't washed. Negative plural. We haven't washed. You haven't washed. They haven't washed. Interrogative singular. Have I washed? Have you washed? Has he washed? Has she washed? Has it washed? Interrogative plural. Have we washed? Have you washed? Have they washed? Don't forget, we make the present perfect 1 with have, has, the auxiliary verb to have, and the past participle of the verb we use to convey action.
We use present perfect 1 in many situations, but our purpose of connecting past and present is mainly the same in all cases. To avoid confusion, we've split the usage of the present perfect 1 into 3 distinctive groups.
Usage of present perfect 1. We use present perfect 1 to connect past and present. To avoid confusion, we have split its usage into 3 groups. 1. Past time, present informing usage. 2. Past time, present time usage, and 3. Present indefinite and definite time usage.
Let's start with a look at the past, present informing usage of the present perfect 1. Here are 3 examples of past, present informing usage of present perfect 1.
Past present informing usage of the present perfect 1. Example 1. We use the present perfect 1 to inform about a past action that is relevant to the present time. Have you gone jogging this morning? This question asks about a past action, but it may be asked with a reference to a present potential situation. If you have gone jogging, you'll not jog with me now, present. If you have not gone jogging in the morning, you'll jog with me now, present. This question refers to a present potential situation related to a past fact. Past present informing usage of the present perfect 1. Example 2. We also use the present perfect 1 to talk about a past experience. Have you been to Canada? In this case, past circumstances are not that important. We may ask this question only because we have a conversation about travel, or maybe because we are really interested in Canada. However, the focus in this example is on a present circumstance, not on a past action performed by the other subject. Past-present informing usage of the present perfect one. Example 3. We can use the present perfect one to talk about past achievements that are relevant to the present time. Dan has won second prize for geography. Dan has won second prize for geography sometime in the past, but the focus is, in fact, on his present image as a good student.
Let's take a look now at past time, present time usage of present perfect one. Here are 4 examples of past time, present time usage of present perfect one.
Past time, present time usage of present perfect one. Example 1. We use the present perfect one to show change between past and present. Last year, Dan's English was not as good as it is now. Between a past time and the present time, Dan's English improved. The focus is less on how Dan's English was in the past. Dan's English is much better now in the present. Past time, present time usage of present perfect one. Example 2. We can use the present perfect one to express a situation or action that started in the past and continues in the present. In such circumstances, we often use for and since. Dan lived in Calgary for 16 years. What does our sentence tell us? Right. It tells us that Dan came to Calgary 16 years ago and he still lives in Calgary. Past time, present time usage of present perfect one. Example 3. We use the present perfect one to refer to past actions that may likely continue in the present. Dan has been to Vancouver 4 times. What do we learn from this sentence? We learn that Dan went to Vancouver several times in the past, but since Dan went to Vancouver 4 times, chances are that he may go to Vancouver again this week or this year. Past time, present time usage of present perfect one. Example 4. We also use the present perfect one to refer to a period of time that started in the past but continues in the present. This week, I've studied English every day. The week started in the past, obviously, but it did not end yet.
Now, let's take a look at the indefinite and definite time of the present perfect one. Here are 2 examples of present indefinite, definite time usage of present perfect one.
Present indefinite and definite time usage of present perfect one. Example 1. We cannot use the present perfect one with definite time. I've been to Vancouver last month. Correct. I've been on vacation in Vancouver last month. Incorrect. Remember, we use the present perfect one to express past information related to the present time. Thus, introducing a past time, last month, makes no sense. If the exact past time is important, we have to use present simple. If the exact past time is not important, we use present perfect. Present indefinite and definite time usage of present perfect one. Example 2. We can use present perfect one with time adverbs. I haven't had a chance to read an English book recently. Note that we use the present perfect with time periods that haven't finished yet. Recently may mean this week, or the past 2 weeks, a period of time that did not end yet. The present perfect is used for an action that continues from past to present. If you say, I haven't read an English book last week, it is incorrect. You should say, I did not read an English book last week.
Let's talk now about the usage of present perfect 2. Present perfect 2 uses structures such as have you ever, and never. Let's start with the present perfect 2 that uses the have you ever structure.
Have you ever is a structure we often use to ask questions about past experiences. Have you ever met an ESL teacher who speaks several foreign languages? Interpretively, this means, did you meet at any time in the past an ESL teacher of whose knowledge of languages may be better than others? In this sentence, ever means at any time. The specific time is not relevant. We also use ever with nothing or nobody for actions that did not actually happen before. Nobody has ever seen God. We can use ever with the structure the first time when we refer to first experiences. This is the first time I've ever traveled by plane. Never is, in fact, a contraction of not ever. If we use never with the present perfect 2, it means that the subject has not had the past experience that we're asking about. Have you ever visited Canada? No, I have never visited Canada.
Let's move on to present perfect 3. Present perfect 3 uses for and since. We use for and since to refer to situations or express actions that start in the past and continue in the present. We'll start with present perfect 3 that uses for.
Present perfect 3 that uses for. We use for to refer to a period of time. I've lived in Calgary for 16 years. The period of time of my living in Calgary started in the past. It continues in the present, and chances are that it will continue in the future as it isn't finished yet. Present perfect 3 that uses since. We use since to refer to a point in time. I've lived in Calgary since April 1991. Remember, we use since only with perfect forms such as present perfect and past perfect. We cannot use since with other forms. We also use since with time clauses. I haven't seen my family since I came to Canada.
Let's talk about the past simple. Let's see when we use the past simple instead of using the present perfect.
Using the past simple instead of present perfect. Choosing to use the past simple instead of present perfect depends on whether we use a definite or indefinite time. If we use a definite past time, then we use the past simple. If we give no time, then we use the present perfect.
Let's take a look at some single events examples and some multiple events examples that use both a definite and indefinite time.
Single events. We can use the past simple and the present perfect for single events. I went to Vancouver in June. In this sentence, we use the past simple because we use a definite past time, in June. I've been to Vancouver. In this sentence, we use the present perfect because we use an indefinite past time. What is important is that I went to Vancouver the time is not important. Multiple events. We can use the past simple and the present perfect for multiple events. I went to Vancouver 5 times last year. In this sentence, we use the past simple because we use a definite past time, last year. I've been to Vancouver 5 times. We use an indefinite past time in this sentence. Time is not important. The fact that I've been to Vancouver is important. Thus, we use the present perfect.
Let's move on to past continuous. We use past continuous to refer to actions or situations that happened over a period of time.
We use the past continuous to convey actions or situations that happened over a period of time. The past continuous is made with the past form of the verb to be and the ing form. Singular. I was washing. You were washing. He was washing. She was washing. It was washing. Plural. We were washing. You were washing. They were washing.
When do we use the past continuous? We use the past continuous to express actions in progress in the past. How does that work? It's very simple. Imagine that you were in the middle of an action that started before but did not finish when your friend came asking you what you were doing. To express what has happened, you have to say, I was doing my homework when Dan came in the room.
What were you doing when I called you yesterday? I was having a coffee with my friend Dan. Look carefully at our examples. What do we notice? We notice the use of the past continuous and the past simple to show that one action occurred while another action was going on. We can also say that we use the past continuous for a background event that has already started, and we use the past simple to introduce a new event. I was having a coffee with my friend Dan is the background situation, and when I called you yesterday is a new event.
The last past form you'll learn is the past perfect.
The past perfect is made with had and the past participle of the verb we use to convey action. I had visited Dan. He had gone with Jason. They had worked hard. She had rephrased her statement. We had watched it 10 times. You had said so.
In the day-to-day life, we talk about actions or events that occurred before a certain past time. To do so, we use the past perfect to connect the two past times.
We often use the past perfect to connect two past times, a previous past time with a later past time. When we arrived, past time, at the train station, the train had left, previous past time. Last year, I visited Canada, past time, but I had never visited Canada, previous past time, before.
You understand now why the grammar of spoken English is important. If you learn it, you produce correct sentences as you write or speak. You're an adult. Therefore, you need to understand logically why and how you produce sentences in a certain way. Children don't need to be told why and how because it is an unconscious process for them. To express meanings naturally, adults need to understand why and how. We help you understand each subject entry. We give you rules and real-life examples that answer your whys and hows. You've already learned how various verbs and their tenses work. But what we did not tell you yet is that we have regular and irregular verbs in English. In English, most of the verbs are regulars. We call them regulars because they form both their past tense and past participle by adding the suffix ed to their infinitive. In other languages, verbs are not as easy as they are in English. To show you the time of the action they convey, which we use to call tense, we use different forms of the verbs. We also use auxiliary verbs with the main verbs for the same purpose.
Unlike other languages that have more verb tenses, there are only 6 verb tenses in English: present, past, future, present perfect, past perfect, and future perfect. At their turn, these verb tenses have different forms. But what makes it easy in English is that all the forms of a tense are made from the principal part of a verb.
You know that regular verbs form the simple past and the past participle by adding the particle ed to their bare form. But there are many irregular verbs that do not follow the ed pattern. There are some patterns among them, but we cannot use them as rules. The irregular verbs are mostly unpredictable. The only way to know them is to memorize them. The most important irregular verbs that also act as auxiliaries are to be, to have, and to do. To be may seem a little tricky because its past tense forms change depending on the subject. Its past participle is been.
To be, irregular and auxiliary. I was. You were. He, she, it was. We were. You were. They were. The past participle of the verb to be is been.
To have and to do are simpler than to be.
To have and to do, irregular and auxiliary. Bare form, have. Past tense, had. Past participle, had. Bare form, do. Past tense, did. Past participle, done.
The irregular verbs fall into 3 main categories: verbs that don't change, verbs that change their vowel, and verbs that change completely.
Irregular verbs. 1. Verbs that don't change. Cut, cut, cut. Hit, hit, hit. Fit, fit, fit. 2. Verbs that change their vowel. Catch, caught, caught. Find, found, found. 3. Verbs that change completely. Arise, arose, arisen. Eat, ate, eaten. Fly, flew, flown. Like regular verbs do, irregular verbs also have a base form, to run, an ing form, gerund, where ing is added to the end of the verb, running, an ies form, where ies is added to the end of the verb, runs, a past tense form which must be learned, ran, a past participle form which must be learned, run.
Remember, irregular verbs do not follow the ed suffix pattern. There are some patterns among them, but we cannot use them as rules. The irregular verbs are mostly unpredictable. If you don't know them, you can only learn them in context. Why is it important to know how the verbs work? It is important because only by using verbs in clear correlation we can appropriately convey action or express our thoughts, feelings, and ideas. The clearer the correlation between the verbs we use, the better we'll express the meaning we intended to convey. The last subject entry Episode 6 teaches is homophones and other confusing words.
Homophones are words that are pronounced alike but have different meaning and spelling. If you do not understand the meaning of a word, look it up in a dictionary. Accept, accept. Add, add. Ate, ate. Buy, buy. Buy. Sight, sight. Sight. Desert, dessert. Eat, it. For, for. Hear, hear. New, new. Know, now. Off, of. Right, right. Then, than. There, there. To, two. Wander, wonder. Weather, weather.
Words that sound the same are confusing, no doubt. Homophones are even more confusing because of the differences in spelling between word pairs. Let's take a look at some examples.
The add homophones. 1. Dan ran an ad in the newspaper. Correct. 2. What do we get if we add two and two? Correct. 3. Dan ran an ad in the newspaper. Incorrect. 4. What do we get if we add two and two? Incorrect. The eight homophones. 1. An octopus has 8 legs. Incorrect. 2. An octopus has 8 legs. Correct. 3. Jason ate his lunch an hour ago. Incorrect. 4. Jason ate his lunch an hour ago. Correct. The buy homophones. 1. Dan wanted to buy Jason a nice present. Incorrect. 2. Dan wanted to buy Jason a nice present. Correct. 3. Dan wanted to buy Jason a nice present. Incorrect. 4. It's hard to say bye to people you love. Incorrect. 5. It's hard to say bye to people you love. Correct. 6. It's hard to say bye to people you love. Incorrect. 7. Jason goes to school by bus. Correct. 8. Jason goes to school by bus. Incorrect. 9. Jason goes to school by bus. Incorrect.
Don't forget, homophones are words that are pronounced alike, but have different meaning and spelling. Don't confuse homophones with homonyms or homographs, which are other confusing words as well.
The word homonym comes from the Latin homonymum. It represents one of two or more words that are identical in sound and spelling, but different in meaning. Bank, a slope. Bank, a place for money. Bank, a bench or row of switches. A homograph is a word that has the same spelling as another word, but has a different origin and meaning. For example, mail, meaning letters, and mail, meaning armor. The verb lead and the metal lead.
The definitions we just gave you for homophones, homonyms, and homographs are clear and simple, but they become less stable when we begin to analyze English words in order to classify them. Therefore, when you run across confusing words, look them up in a dictionary. Also, do have in mind that since we do not all pronounce words the same way, word pairs in one geographical area may not be homonyms in other locations. Additionally, don't forget that changes in pronunciation occur continually. Words that are pronounced the same at one time may not be pronounced the same way at another time.